Before I give the floor to the first speaker, this is session number 7, the Digital Analytic Technologies of Lipetsk University. Let me give the opportunity to share most modern innovations. Let me first make some household remarks. We're not limited on time, but let's say give some 10, 12 minutes per speaker so that we have enough time left to discuss for the discussion. And perhaps some questions shall be coming. Questions may be asked by sending notes, and in the end, each of the speakers will answer the questions or comment the remarks. Questions may also be asked in a chat. We are monitoring it. So let's begin. I'd like to give the floor to the Vice Rector, head of the program for the development of Lomonosov Moscow University, member of the working group on sports medicine at the Presidential Council of the Russian Federation for the Development of Physical Culture and Sport. This is Sergei Yegorov, who is the Doctor of Biological Sciences. He is also the professor. So the floor is yours, Professor. Good day, dear colleagues. Can I switch the slides? When I prepared this presentation, it's rather bigger, but I'll deliver it quickly. By the way, let me express my gratitude for inviting me to this very hospitable city, to this Congress. 2 years ago, I had it in my mind and on paper, and now it's like in concrete. I mean the innovative sports direction in the Vorobyevo Hills or Sparrow Hills Valley. It's called Sports and Innovative Technology. In our documents, we call it Sports Cluster. How do I switch my slides? So these are the orders. First came in the year 17, and next one came in the year 20, and that's the strategy for the development of physical culture and sport till the year 30. My colleagues and I, including Olga and Anatolyevna, we participated in its development. So it includes that integrating and coordination field in sports. I guess you know about the place of the Moscow University in education of Russian science. We are the oldest university, though St. Petersburg University may object this fact. And we are dealing with sports, but sports as the field for research, like in Lipetsk University and other sports universities, we've never had this direction earlier. Well, of course, some research was conducted. However, we didn't have that. And at present, this is being formed and on the order of the president that I've mentioned, and that's the sense of my today's presentation. It should be conducted by us in cooperation with the Healthcare Ministry, Sports Ministry, and other stakeholders of Russia. So we are trusted this task and we are able to do that. We know how to integrate different topics from ballet to nanotechnologies. That's why we are doing this. Let me briefly explain what's going to be in that valley, how it will look like. I'll do my best to be brief since we're short of time. Since the year 13, 10 years have passed, we were trying to carry out this idea. This is the council headed by Vladimir Putin, and we discussed this idea several times. We had an area since the year 53, Lenin Hills. There's that university building with a spire. In the year 53, the territory was allocated in the Moscow region. We started to develop it only in this century, in the beginning of it. And now we think how to most efficiently use this area. Maybe not, maybe for some scientific purposes. This idea was supported by the council. So since the year 13, we started to work on the concept. It was approved. So we need researchers, industry innovators, and this is not paid by the budget. We need to make money ourselves. 17 hectares of land are allocated. Construction is going on over there. It's going to be a little Skolkovo. But unlike Skolkovo, it is aimed at the groups of scientists of the Moscow University and whoever wants to cooperate with us. A special law was developed to do that on scientific innovative centers. It was adopted. The management system was created and the government order was issued that approved 8 directions, but sports was forgotten. We kind of selected it at the university, and this direction, that's what was done. Additionally, the government order, don't you forget about the president's order about innovations in sports. And that's the only thing we were ordered to do. All the rest we selected ourselves. So that's a government task for us. So in the year 20, in December, the council meeting took place and the president, its chair, said that by the year 25, some things are to be constructed and started. Now let me tell you what we are doing. This piece of land, it's a well-known building of the Moscow University. Next you see behind Moscow and the city center. That's the Lomonosovsky Prospect. That's the existing library, 2 blocks where students study. And this piece, these are all the different projects. And this bit, these are the 17 hectares allocated by the government order that's given from the federal property. And it's via the fund transferred to the management company. It's not private property, but the management company and the fund are not just in vain. For example, the director of the fund is appointed by the government order. So the government will watch the thing, that's for sure. But legislation is a bit different. There'll be a separate special system of taxes, etc. So we should finish the 3 main buildings. Money is already allocated for their construction. That's again them on the plan. That's the so-called educational building. That's the tower in the center. Oops, I've lost it. Here it is. That's the tower for educational things. It's funded by the city. The city allocated the money for the construction of 1 block and for all the engineering infrastructure. So that interdisciplinary block is of greatest interest for us. It's the biggest. That's 75,000 meters. That's 15, and that's 100,000 meters. And there'll be sports facilities over there. These clusters are enlisted. These are the future buildings. They don't exist yet, but all the works are already being conducted. Groups are created. Companies, hundreds of companies are created. Hundreds of contracts are signed. That's where sports may be studied and developed. That's pharmaceutical branch, humanitarian branch. So on one side, there'll be expert students, customers. Thus, it will be nearby and convenient. It will be convenient to carry out this activity. So the first block was already open. That's Lomonosov block. The mayor of Moscow, Sobyanin, are putting it into operation. Beautiful one. The work is already started there. Second block shall be put into operation in May, June. It's the educational and management one. That's where the innovative companies shall get addresses to enjoy the easier tax mode. And that's the block of our interest. I'll tell you about it. That's the interdisciplinary four-floor building with 8-floor top. Sports shall be at the bottom, 16,000 square meters. That's the next thing with engineering. I'm just scrolling it for you to understand the scale and see how many companies have already signed contracts with us, and they will all be able to be employed in sports. Lots of companies, they're already there. And if somebody wants to join us, they'll get the access to all that ecosystem. They make contact with them, find opportunities to use the equipment, use ideas, etc. So it's an interdisciplinary order of the president, hence many are participating. The sports ministry gave us some 10 bodies, Academy of Sciences, Healthcare Ministry, Sports Federation, and of course the Moscow University experts. We're open for cooperation. You're welcome. Recently, the Academy of Economy have sent their representatives. We're open and we'll be happy to if you join our common activities, kind of an interest club. So we've developed a concept. It has been approved and we are already working following it. These are the projects that we are going to carry out. That's what in demand in sport, and that's what we can do. Maybe sports needs something else, but we are not sure we are able to provide it, since some areas are quite specific. But that's what is being developed in sports. New information methods, genomics, green sport, legal, organizational things. Many things are not included. Psychology is also mentioned, studies of metabolism, etc. We keep conducting our seminars, so we gather our working group and key partners from different bodies, and there we do our best to form such connections. Customer, perhaps the states, maybe federation, maybe private entity, and the executors. Technologies from the operating company related to patenting and the usage of equipment. There may be the company's representative and technologies necessary. They enable us to come to an agreement. In conclusion, that's what was presented to Viktor Antonovich a year and a half ago. That's the way the place would look like, where companies going in for sports could be employed. Plus, in the evening, the employees could go in for sports because everybody needs it. That's the way the block will look like, 95,000 square meters. That's the base with a huge conference and concert hall, and it's the only thing coordinating the buildings where the only place where big conferences may be conducted. It's a big hall with the capacity of 1,500 people. Smaller halls in the neighbor blocks. That's floor one. Together with the investigation committee, we have a place to practice shooting. So it's for sports and for criminal studies for the investigation committee. Second thing is a big swimming pool. The length is 50 meters, but it's narrow. And it has two parts. Bottom may be lifted for little children. A big hall for game sports. Everything is conditional. It may be modified. That's the part for education, for reception zone, cloakrooms, etc. Well, we occupy floor 1 and 3 in here. That's floor level 1. See the beautiful drawings, interactive, educational, different fitness machines, counterflow platforms, maybe a game, maybe it's a game hall. We do not yet understand who from the federation or from which organization will ask for what kind of equipment to be installed. Psychophysiology, surely, and floor 3 shall be for the companies and the medical center. It's a special area, blue in the center for medicine, big area for sports nutrition with a research center, and a canteen for athletes. And also, this is for accommodation of our colleagues. Some other drawings and designs. We do that in cooperation with Inna Practica company. It was founded in the year 13 as a prototype of the valley. So we cooperate with them quite well. That's why you're welcome to join our cooperation. You may find us on the site, Sergei Egorov, and we'll be happy if you have any ideas for cooperation. Thanks for the attention. Thank you very much indeed, Sergei Yurievich. You really inspired us for more scientific research. We understand that a lot is being done for us. Good conditions are created for us. But as for the activities, what do we fill with these beautiful premises? Well, that's our job and the job of our brain. Well, that's how I'd like to bring you to the topic of the next presentation. It's difficult to assess the role of hands in the life of people as a life. Bad motility of hands and fingers may impair the intellectual abilities. That's a very interesting research from our colleagues from the Lipetsk State Pedagogical University, named after Semenov-Tyan-Shansky. Tatiana Bakhtiarova and Andrei Pomerantsev will provide the vision of the solution of this difficult problem. Tatiana is going to be the speaker. Good day, dear Congress participants. Let me first thank for the opportunity to participate in a Congress of such a level. That's my first time. The topic of my presentation is systematization of the assessment of hands motility. It's rather individual and depends on the routine activities. Well, there are many methods for its assessment. There are experts in different fields. They have their own understanding of motion of hands. There is no uniform method yet that would enable to correctly assess. Thus, we should look for such a universal method for the assessment of motion of hands and fingers. It's a topical issue. The purpose of the research is a systemizing of the assessment of hands motion. Well, the most frequent methodologies were studied We used the analysis of literature sources. We used the databases and studied over 20 works to study the fine motor skills or manual dexterity. Well, the main properties for classification are on this slide. That was done depending on the age, the small children, school children, adults. Next is the period of age. Earlier methods were those used since 1950s till nowadays. Health group consists of two parts. Methodologies used for people with limited abilities and in healthy people. Profession, drawing, working with papers, small objects, small application, gesturing, working with devices. Purpose of study, what the methods were used for, to assess the level of motor dexterity or fine movements, diseases of upper extremities, restoration of these fine movements. Next is properties like coordination, speed, motility, strength. Method for assessment methodologies were used by the one who did the experiment or objective methods with no human error or inclination. Different platforms, medical, neuropsychological, etc. Presence of special equipment, special devices for necessary, like some software, computers, and the area of usage. We discovered that these are used not only in pedagogics, but also in neuropsychology, psychology, sports, biomechanics, etc. And this enabled us to classify certain methodologies. The ones we regarded are listed on the slide. That's only a small part of methodologies that exist at present. There's a huge number of them. Names are abbreviated. Now, let me briefly tell you about certain methods with graphic design. Here you can see the test description. There was a task, 20 template tasks, drawing lines of different lines with a different direction. Number two, well-known methods called runways. Children had to draw lines that would connect to different parts of the drawing. Precision of movements was thus studied, and whether hands are well prepared for drawing. Take a better look at drawing 3. That's the development of fine movements. Our head, Mr. Pomerantsev and Mr. Starkin invented that time of reaction is registered. It's the opposite to the combination of the bent and open fingers at the terminal. That was done. One more methodology. It's on drawing 4. That's sampling that enables us to understand the regulatory component condition. A certain pattern was given to a child consisting of 1 or 2 elements, and it had to be continued on the sheet without supporting lines. A sheet of A4 format. On this slide, you can see the clinical tests of hand surgery. May I have the video, please? You'll understand better how testing is conducted. For example, first test, Fallen test. The hand is in the position of 90 degrees for 60 seconds. This position is kept, and when one feels numb, that means that the carpal tunnel syndrome are present. Next test is called OK test, since here, doing this test is similar to the OK gesture. Now the patient is asked to bend hands of the forefinger and thumb. So if patient has a damaged nerve, he cannot do such a gesture. Another is a Durkheim test. We pressure the median nerve in carpal channel. This is done for 1 minute. If there's pain in the area of innervation, then there's the carpal channel syndrome present. Next method is a subjective method of assessment. I have the first video, please. It's called box and block test. It's rather a simple one. It enables to determine the dominating hand and how well the hands are working. It's a cube moved from one half of the box to the other. The test is being conducted for a minute. Next is a well-known dexterity test. One needs special equipment for that, a board with openings in the first hole. There are metal rods, and the second block of openings is where one needs to bring those objects. Time of the test is also being recorded. One more, similar to the previous, is that playboard test is done in a sitting position starting from the dominating hand. Then the second hand is checked. It's necessary to put the sticks into the hole according to their diameter. There are different options of tasks depending on what we want to test or check. We've analyzed most best theories and classification parameters were determined to systemize these methods. And we'll shape it into the electronic database and thus form the uniform universal method for a dexterity assessment. That's it. Thank you for the attention. Sorry, the mic is off. Once again, thank you, Tatiana Valyerievna. Thanks for a very interesting presentation. We hope for future cooperation with you. We're really interested to learn about those innovative methods of yours. Yes, we'll be happy to cooperate. Lipetsk University is always ready for cooperation. We're happy to conduct joint projects with you. Our professional activity is rather diverse, and thanks to some of our professional activities, the impact of psychological and physiological factors is not always positive. It may cause psychosomatic conditions that brings down the professional efficacy and life quality. How to leverage those negative conditions. That was a topic interesting for scientists all over the world. So our colleagues, Grigory Gennadievich from the Military Physical Culture Institute of the Russian Federation and Olga Baranova from the same university, as well as Natalia Dmitrieva from the Russian Economical University, named after Plekhanov from Moscow, Russian Federation. They will provide the results of their studies. Olga Viktorovna, the floor is yours. You're welcome to make a presentation on the topic of homogenetic factor in cognitive failures of those who participated in elimination of the consequences of radiation disasters. Distinguished chair, distinguished audience, I'd like to begin my presentation with a quote of academician Feoktistov. Discovery of nuclear energy is the greatest achievement of global science. It can be stopped or forgotten. We just need to learn how to use it for the benefit of mankind without harming it. The veterans of special risk detachment are a special category of people. Their professional activity was related to the impact of radiation and other extreme factors, except besides radiation. Many veterans are participants that eliminated the disaster, the nuclear agents of nuclear vessels, the testers of nuclear weapons. They also eliminated disasters at the NPP. Nowadays, the hazards are even more numerous since nuclear weapons may be used at compact. So big areas of the planet may be irradiated. In the 20th century at Chernobyl NPP, there took place a huge man-made catastrophe. The special features of that disaster and of the disasters at the other NPPs is that the participants of the rescue teams and the population of the nearby territories were irradiated, mainly in small doses. Hence, there's the rise of nervous and psychological and mental diseases. There are the post-traumatic stress impairments and the cognitive processes may be impaired as well. There are some we should study not only the impact of the radiation on humans, but we should also look for new means of prevention and invent methods that would be able to not only stop the impairment of health, but eliminate that impairment completely. The Russian National Report, 25 Years of Chernobyl Catastrophe, the Minister for Defense, Mr. Sergei Shevkov, mentioned the following. Healthcare for people who suffered from Chernobyl and providing good environmental conditions for life and labor of the population at the territories that suffered from Chernobyl is a priority of the government policy in the field. Medical protection and rehabilitation is included of the citizens included in the National Register requires medical screening so that we can provide a treatment and rehab early enough. The purpose of this research is the development of exercising rehab exercises for people from top risk detachment. We've developed special exercises to improve the cognitive impairments in such patients. The obtained data is important for organization of the relevant activities that would support the life and health of the veterans of the special risk detachment. Those were mainly men aged 50, 60, 30 people, and they received small doses of radiation. We've developed a set of corrective exercises that included 3 exercises and 5 sets of exercises with objects, with a chair, weights, a ball, etc. And the speed was different depending on the condition of the patient. The exercises were conducted for over 7 months, thrice a week. Corrective gymnastics included anthropometric measurements. Body mass index, BMI, was determined, and the general health condition was assessed. Thanks to that, we compared the results before and after the exercises. Besides, while doing the research, we did the following activities. We assessed the psychological and mental conditions using different systems. We determined the strength of muscles, studied the cardiorespiratory system. We registered the vital volume of lungs, blood pressure using Korotkov method, heart rate using physiolog and block system. We measured how long we could do without breathing. Stangenvich tests. Microsoft was used for calculations of the registered parameters. Student the criteria was used to verify the data, and we checked how these parameters changed after the physical load. Let me skip that. And special attention should be paid to the fact that the mental condition improved a lot. From 37 to 45, activity went up to 45.4. The mood went up from 37.4 to 45.3 scores. Considering the obtained data, we may conclude that the developed set of exercises for rehab positively impacted the cardio and respiratory system and the psychological and mental condition of the experiment participants. This set may be recommended not only for the rescuers of radiation accidents. It's good for different categories of people who can do these exercises at home. This is proved by the data provided by the research. Thank you for the attention. Olga, thank you very much indeed for your presentation and for the work you've conducted with your colleagues, scientists. Yeah, it's great if we can use these activities with maximum efficacy. Unlike the colleagues in other fields of science, we can be sure that the physical exercise is the most effective thing, and it helps resolve many tasks. We keep trying to find an answer to the question how to develop the socially important qualities that's necessary in our society. No matter how many answers we get, it's not sufficient. That's why we never stop trying. And our colleagues, including Anastasia Yefimova and Marina Tkachuk, they are from the National State University for Physical Culture and Sports, named after Leskov, from St. Petersburg. They will offer their way or their option of using this practice horse riding in the plain air. You're welcome. Again, questions maybe passed over to me in writing. And after that, we can have that Q&A session. Good afternoon. Let me tell you about the new method for the development of human personality using a horse. It's free riding on a horse. It's always important to have a harmonious development of a personality, including physical culture. Modern authors believe that both people should be developed both physically and um, mentally. It all should come in harmony, and it's important for the development of personality. And I believe socializing and exercising with horses is really great. It's a new thing for Russia. It's called hyperpension or hyperpedagogics. This term appeared in Russia thanks to Gazizov and Lopokhova studies. Earlier, it was in Germany in the year 95 by Hans-Jürgen Peireis, therapeutic socializing of man and horse. Hypertherapy and hypervention were used. First is rehab influence of horse riding. The second is psychological effect of socializing of man and human, and it is not a must to include riding on a horse. The purpose of our research is to determine the role of socializing with horses and riding them for the harmonious development of personality. We used polling, and it was done at the club. We used the method of observation and the feedback of those who were the club members. It's from 13 to 38. They would attend such classes. Author's methodology was used from Anastasia Yefimova. It was based on Fryer Goodman studies. So, socializing of man and horse without riding, without any saddle, with plenty of space around. Man is next to the horse on footed. There's a pupil, the coach, and the horse. The horse is doing simple things. It's taught to follow, coming to the call, riding different ways, simple tricks. This cooperation looks like playing with a dog, but unlike the dog, the horse by nature is not motivated to socialize with people, and to engage it is the task for a man. But there's no forcing of a horse by people. So people are learning how to motivate the horse. The criterion for success is a voluntary cooperation of a horse. If the horse is willing to carry out the tasks. Such training enables to resolve 5 pedagogical tasks listed on this slide. Good for the students, it's good for their morale, development of empathy, communication, self-regulation, and general rehab. Well, on the basis of the polls conducted, 92% of respondents would transfer that model of socializing with the horse to communication with people. The following effects were observed by the students. In the right column of the slide, you can see the number of percent of respondents that noticed these effects. Positive emotions, better understanding of a horse were mentioned, as well as the development of an empathy They're now more attentive to their partners and more attentive about relations in general. The following effect was noticed. They're more relaxed, more self-confident, they're better leaders, honest partnership, team spirit, and the lesson of trust they learn from the course. People understand better themselves, their borders, harmony, being with nature, momentum, better loyalty, better tolerance to others. Some of the students also remembered that now they can manage their body better, that is closer to physical culture, and they are improving the skill of concentration. Besides, several people mentioned that they stopped being scared of horses. It means correct methodology was used and methods are safe. This research is a preliminary stage for um, future studies are planned, and we are trying. We are planning to test this methodology on athletes to develop the qualities necessary for athletes. On the next slide, you see the tasks of this study. So there's going to be a comprehensive impact on the pupils. It's good for their morale, rehab, improvement of their health, and that means harmonious development. It impacts the life of students, and that is good for forming of a healthy society. All these contacts on this slide. Your questions are welcome. Anastasia, Marina, thank you very much. As usual, you keep surprising us. You never stop surprising us. Thanks a million. I believe the interested colleagues should find a chance to socialize with you and to discuss the topic and perhaps continue some joint research with you to improve empathy and desire to do these classes with courses. Please take your seat. Now I'd like to remember the most popular kind of sport. No matter whether you're good at it or not, you can't be indifferent to soccer. And soccer development and evolution of sports, preparation of new or young soccer players. This will be explained by our colleague from Krasnodar University of Sports and Physical Culture, Mr. Badichenko. My greetings. When people meet, they talk about different things, but in the end of the meeting, they usually talk either about politics or about soccer. So let's talk about soccer. There isn't enough reserve for professional soccer teams. Soccer became professional. Globalization has revealed the problems of education of soccer players. Foreign players started coming instead of less competitive local players. And this impacted their sports skills. So the level of national teams went down abruptly. So national team achievement was the quarter of the final, but it's a very doubtful level of success. There's now a limit for foreign players. This revealed the long-term problems of Russian soccer. The season of years 2021 wasn't a success. Also, the youth and the national teams had failure in the championship of Europe. It's a long-term trend in Russia, and it's bad. for the country's prestige. Well, an important condition is determination of the root reasons, root causes of this situation. What's wrong in the training of athletes, and what can be done to improve the situation so that our athletes in soccer are professional enough? We've analyzed the literature, sources, and presented different aspects. They include the theory of training, the social economic condition of the country in general, different periods of the annual training cycle, and stages for the development of sports skills. In the Soviet Union, there was mass sport in the yards, and that was like a feeding environment for finding talents. Sports selection, sports orientation were the developed terms at that time. In the Russian Federation, there appeared unhealthy competition within the kind of sport and between the kinds of sports. There was competition for a potential athlete. Hence, sports orientation notion was nearly lost, and sports selection was nearly forgotten. However, in the year 19, the Russian Soccer Union, together with the Sports Ministry of the Russian Federation, have developed a document that regulates the preparation of the reserve of athletes. It's based on the traditional stages of multi-year cycle, and the development of a separate player is related to the achievements of the team. We believe that the priorities are to be set for each organization form and the status of the body. We should subdivide the healthcare mass of professional activities of the sports education body. Training in sport, Russian scientists have decided that it's good to have 3 stages of forming of the motility skill: learning, stabilizing, and improving. Priorities are decided. This created the theory basis for the physical education. And we have this theory of sports training in Russia. Many scientists were determining the limits of sensitive periods. So we should aim at technical perfection, plus there should be the substantiation of the physical abilities. It's necessary to substantiate the specification of sports skills. The so-called missed factor is the development of perception and cognitive abilities. Special intellectual skills are to be developed. A certain behavior has to be developed as well. And for that, the person should have special abilities. We've conducted the necessary research in the field. Some monographs were written, and they include methodology for forming of special skills in soccer players. The science allocate technical, tactical, physical, and psychological education or preparation. And sometimes some things were missed at training. Next, scientists tried to improve the sports training by uniting into meta disciplines like integral preparation that makes training very similar to the competition. Different components of contests are a necessary link for improvement of players that would improve the individual skills of soccer players. Hence, there's a need to improve the existing norms and to improve the very system of training of athletes in Russia. Technical and technical preparation has been talked about for some 4 decades. However, it wasn't in the standards till November of the year 22. Periods of the annual training center preparation, contest and transitional period, including all that is necessary for keeping the correct sports form at the right period of time, and that's necessary for the top achievements. Next, the scientists did their best to improve the skills of top athletes via different loads at different cycles, so that annual cycle is being used since the age of 14, when the teenager is still in the process of development of its body. For adults, it's a topical issue. For young soccer players, it is not a determining factor because the top achievements are a remote thing. There should be continuity, and that is the thing that will really improve the sports skills. Well, we have the relevant candidate thesis at our chair. They provide the methodology and substantiation for preparation of teenage athletes. Yet in 1960s, we've developed the universal structure for improvement of sports skills of young athletes. The prevailing the physical and technical preparation were prevailing in the older standards, and only recently, since the standards were changed, the things have improved. Technical preparation and the general physical achievements, and that's the reason to switch them to the next stage. You know, the achievements at competitions do not always reflect the actual situation. We used to have early specialization in soccer. That's due to the formats of contests for younger children. At the age of 12, teenagers are included in professional academies and they're promoted to join professional teams. Hence, we should create multi-year training cycle that would add up to the traditional model and enable us to prepare well the able athletes. I have my own research for theory of a multi-year cycle and promotion of the player and individual assessment of competence and skills. Competence of the player is related to a certain level of development of motility and psychology and cognition. In the country, the social conditions have changed, and this requires the evolution of development of sports skills in soccer. It should be a multi-year process of training. We should reveal the relevant problems early enough, and that will keep our soccer competitive enough at the global level. Thank you. Thank you, Vladislav. May I use the moderator's right and ask a question right away on your last slide? How would you relate the classification that you are offering, and how would you compare it with the one which is now in the federal standards? So the whole process you're subdividing into 3 stages. You understand my question, do you? Yeah. The existing multi-year periodization begins with the beginning of the training. In soccer, it's now 7 years. And we suggest a model starting from the age of 12. Since 12, the soccer players are getting to the big field, and before that, they already have the basic skills. They have passed the initial selection. Thus, it's more probable that in future they may become professional athletes. So we call first stage to be basic. Before that, they all play in small formats. Next, we suggest the pre-professional stage. I may explain details in a personal meeting. And next comes the professional stage when they sign first contracts with professional clubs. These periods may be combined because traditional periodization only considers the technical and physical development without the perception and cognition abilities development. That's important for tactical skills. So if we add this model with new knowledge, we can talk about the individual assessment of each player in the team instead of the whole team as a whole. I'll explain the question. Those who are interested in your suggestion probably have a question. How do you put in order these 3 stages? The initial preparation is stage number 1. That is clear. That's what my question is about. From 7 to 9 is the first period. Yeah, but we need to carry out the tasks of that stage. That means it's happening at the basic stage. No, not really. Since the age of 12, on the basis of the preliminary stages, they get into, so it begins with training. How do we get this related to the federal standards that now regulate your stages? That's what my question is about. You may consider your answer. I'll answer now. The federal standard for the government sports schools, but we suggested for the soccer club academies. They needn't be government, they may be private. Now this standard is relevant for the government academies as well. But we understand the player is only promoted on the basis of the assessment of the team achievements, not of individual achievements. Thank you very much. Now let me offer the next topic for the discussion. It's also very important, since like all the previous ones, it is determined by the social demand, social important demand, and that is the importance of the complex ready for labor and defense RLD standards. This issue was studied by the following codex: Denis Lapatin from the Classical School of the Moscow University. The floor is yours. You may tell us about how we may resolve this issue. Yes, at the previous sessions, the RLD norms ready for labor and defense norms and system will be discussed as well. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thanks for inviting me to be a speaker at this international conference. This is the third experience of a term. Earlier, I've participated in the ones in Moscow and Karelia. And also at the university, in the year 19, I delivered a presentation on the same topic about safety at lessons of sports, since some accidents did take place. I'm a soccer player and I work on LD standards and promotion. We have that 5-year period announced, the plans till the year 30. But if you work at school, you have many questions to ask. The main question being is why my son or daughter don't have that golden RLD badge in the last school year. So the role of RLD in the system of physical education of school children nowadays. Nowadays, people have spend a lot of time in front of the computer. That's why that's the life of a modern school child. We are all aware of that. That's why in Russia a decision was made to revive those RLD norms. It happened in the year 14, yet before, lately it was only done in the Soviet Union. And to get that RLD dash one had to do exercises according to the norms. That was a system of not only physical development, but of patriotic upbringing as well. So we were looking for the most efficient ways of cooperation with the population. We know it's children, and we know that this is mass sport. Now, in the yards, they are trying to get results in parks, in recreation areas. And yes, now the population is, people are really trying to move more, to have more exercises, and they are planning to get that standard LD badge. Well, the statistic data and research in the field of mass sports, there are results of monitoring. They testify that not many adults are going into sports and planning to get the LD standards. This research, how topical is it? I considered that for a while, and I believe that LD importance, for us to understand it, we need to know the RLD. People in population and children seem to have forgotten it. So we should study the history of RLD till nowadays. That's the task. So we need to know how that system of physical education was founded. We should trace its development and compare the RLD norms of the Soviet Union and of the modern time. For the thing we are studying, well, RLD is the system of, is part of the system of patriotic upbringing of the youth. And we also study the role of RLD for forming of the interest of the youth for physical exercises. There's the hypothesis. RLD plays an important role in the physical education of the youth, and it's good for the improvement of the nation health. After the Great October Revolution, or the Communist Revolution, was over in Russia in the year 17 or 18, we wanted to improve the quality of life in the Soviet Union and in sports. It was considered that all the young men and women should be ready to conduct the war, to participate in the combat activities. At that time, only a man after 18 and a woman over the age of 17 was able to get that badge. And before that, medical examination was conducted. Men and women would have contests in different age groups. Lots of attention was dedicated to theory. Yeah, modern school children are not aware of that. Also, we should know the history of sports achievements of LD, the basis of physical self-discipline. I conduct lessons at schools. I say, no matter how talented you are, you should begin with discipline. And the first medical aid, that's also of importance. LD could be obtained not only in the cities, but also in the villages, like in local schools. And the result, one received a certificate of an athlete. It was quite a certificate of honor. The candidate for RLD who would suit all the standards would get that badge and certificate. And that was quite a solemn ceremony. They would enjoy some benefits as well if they had that golden badge. Nowadays, athletes can be of various ages. New kinds of sports were included. Most of the standards have become more difficult to achieve. One needs to be really well fit physically to get that LD badge. Now the plan of the events developed at schools and nursery schools nowadays, they're individual in different educational establishments. I know about those in private schools and government schools of Moscow, St. Petersburg, and other regions. The teacher of sports, first of all, determines that the child wants it, that the parents want it. Then there's the medical examination that takes place. This may be obtained anywhere from school, nurse or doctor, or from the nearest outpatient clinic. So a list of candidates is formed. Then some training and studies are being conducted, and then during the year of studies, they have those contests regularly. On weekends, as usual, at your school or in the nearby since September of the year 14, according to the order of the Russian President, Mr. Vladimir Putin, the RLD standard was reintroduced. And this provides that different age groups are fit according to certain standards, aged from 6 to 70. The standards were updated and the age groups, they were 11. Now there's 18. We have a chapter of physical culture teachers, and we came to a common opinion that RLD now has less norms, earlier 8, now 6, and there's a number of norms that have become more serious. You have to run faster to do better. This trend in the system is being tested. After a year, we'll be able to tell whether kids can or cannot do it. That makes people of all age group think about the healthy mode of life. What else? The president takes care of our health, and he wants us to be healthy athletes. And it's important for our self-confidence. This RLD badge is prestigious, but there may be some concerns. So our task is to prepare pupils aged 17, 18, so that they do have this RLD badge. Till the year 22, that golden badge, say Bauman University, means 5 scores at the entrance exams. That's really very good, and this system, unfortunately, didn't work in the past. As a pedia, that's the site. I double-checked this year. Only Gubkin University and MGIMO don't give scores. Bauman gives 5. Others from 1 to 3 scores. If you're not the best pupil, that's of importance, and it's useful, as it's easy for you to enter the educational establishment. Golden badge is very difficult to obtain, so the silver and bronze badges should be considered as well. Anyway, it's good for self-confidence of the students. Let me give you some conclusions. The research conducted enabled us to come to the following conclusions. The Soviet RLD system was developed from upbringing of people ready to defend their motherland at every point. The system started in the year 31. In the year 14, this tradition was revived by the president. Means he wants to improve the level of preparedness and the health of the population. Well, the list of norms and standards now has bigger age groups. After COVID in September, I would examine 6-year-old kids, and parents are very happy if their kids get it. I'm studying best practices, and even in the 3rd year of studies, at the age of 10, 7, 8, they get that RLD standards and badges. The research materials prove that it's important for the physical education of the youth. Our school should be mentioned for 3 years. I keep participating in the work in the sports facilities and competition now at Luzhniki, and we were the winners among 25 private schools of Moscow. We were number 1 in that contest. It's our group picture with parents, tutors. There were more people, more than 40. Not everyone is in this picture. We were supported by the Department of Sports of Moscow. The contest lasted for 2 days. That's us at Krasnaya Presnya, the year 20 after the COVID. That's again the park in the same place. Children are really incentivized. That's Form 11 and 12. So do follow their example, and they are now more confident if they received that badge. And it's important to get that badge on time before the entrance exams to the college. I always explain for children and for parents why is it necessary and why it is good. We have parents from the investigation committee of Russian, from other important bodies. and they are happy to participate in our activities, and we get every possible support from them. By the end of this year, there are applications for more. The winners are determined by the results. I also participated. I was the winner in the age group of above 35. So they invited me to come and participate again. They are willing to cooperate with us and with our school. A lot depends on the teacher of physical training. If he's professional, if he's enthusiastic enough, then the thing works. When competing, the first thing, most important thing is competing with oneself. This was my motivation since the year 20. Now I have my own idea. I believe this forum has to be conducted every 2 years, and I would like to write about it. Some are not able to do it in autumn. This should be done either in early spring or by the end of the year. It's important, understandable that he won't get the badge right away. Sometimes not enough conditions are not good enough at schools. Such forums would be good for Moscow and other cities if they took place several times a year. Thank you very much indeed for your research and for this image of an ideal teacher of physical culture. That's a great example. Really, you are an example to be followed by your colleagues and school children. My little dream is to continue studying. I have ideas. I'm now developing the national kinds of sport, like Garadki national game. Again, I don't want to self-promote, but I was one of the initiators of restoring that national sport of Russia, Gorodki. It's already introduced. Hopefully, it will be well developed in Russia. Why not organize Russia's championships? And it would be interesting to have competitions and to compare what's stronger, American baseball or Russian laptop game. Who's got the golden badge of R&D? Some do. Who played laptop game? In childhood, perhaps. Yes, surely not now. What about a laptop game? It was used to be a very popular sport. It should be revived, and it's great that it's now included in the school program. Lapta is a Russian traditional ball game. In Mariel, there was a Russia's championship. Bashkortostan has good level of lapta development. And then in St. Petersburg, the female team became number 3 in Russia. Prize winners. Great. Indeed, Alexander, Maria, the winners are creating the history of this kind of sports. Dear colleagues, we call you to get RLD badges and to play a laptop game. Now, let me once again drive your attention to an important part of our preparedness, psychological, physical, that's dexterity or fine motions. We have one more presentation from Andrei Pomerantsev on dexterity tests in athletes. How are you using the 3D models for that? My greetings to the audience. I'm Andrei Pomerantsev. May I have my presentation, please? Let me repeat. Assessment of dexterity of athletes using virtual gestures. Dexterity is important for many professions. Musicians, doctors, sewing, coordination and motility of fingers is required. Of no less importance is dexterity. Dexterity is for different kinds of sports. Athletes need good dexterity. Nowadays, there's the following trend existing in sports. The value of dexterity keeps growing. Cyber and digital kinds of sports are being developed, and that's where dexterity is important. Now, let me explain anatomy a bit. That's the bone of fingers. There's phalanx, joints between the phalanx that provide independent movements. The joint connecting the distal and middle phalanx provides no chance for movement. It's not a functional joint. We only thus regard two joints, the functional one between the moving parts of fingers. The exception is the thumb. It's unique, and there the movement is possible between the distal and mid phalanx. Have a look at your hand. You can show the figure 5. If you use the dual system, then we can show 32. If we regard two working joints in each finger, then we can show even more fingers, 243 gestures. Thus, employing two joints, we can form 243 gestures with our hands. We wanted to create the models of all these gestures and to see which ones may and may not be done by humans. Some restrictions are anatomical, some are unattainable due to insufficient motility, not enough experience and specialization. We've done the blender with 243 gestures. That's a good computer. And we've invented such a method. Gestures were shown on the computer screen, and people were asked to show these gestures. The operator will check that the gestures are done correctly or incorrectly. Next, a software was created based on neuron network, so those gestures were fixed. That's the outlook of the interface of the first software program. You may have this test on the internet as well. And in today's test, I'd like to tell about testing of one person. It's a sample test. A student aged 19. We've selected her because we expected her to have good dexterity. She was playing the piano, she was working in the circus. So we asked her to show those 243 gestures and to check whether it works or not. We asked her to assess how difficult this or that gesture was. We asked her to assess that according to 10 score tests. The level of difficulty was 0. Let me list several slides. If you are interested, you may try these gestures and see if it's difficult or not. They're of different level of difficulty. Don't be shy, try your gestures. Well, these are most difficult gestures, even for people with well-developed dexterity, professional musicians. Some are next to impossible. None of the tested people could do that. No experience helps. It's due to the anatomical restrictions. Well, we've summarized. That's the number of difficult gestures. That's after testing of one girl. But you may have many people to test. Some are easy gestures, some are impossible, some are difficult. There are 14 impossible gestures. That makes some 6%. We've created and registered a database. I've mentioned it for testing of dexterity. Next step of our research was searching for associations rules. What finger combinations don't enable us to perform certain gestures and which ones are simple. We use the software Deductor Academic. There's the search of associative rules. Out of 243 gestures, we've done the so-called 240 transactions, 5 events, according to certain positions of certain fingers. And we try to find out why certain gestures are easy or not. With this, we had 1,600 sets that we've analyzed the level of simplicity. We had around 400 association rules discovered and some 50 rules with high level of support. So here is a number of rules, mathematical rules that we have discovered and what makes the gesture impossible. So if, for example, the middle finger is bent, it's difficult to have other fingers straight, etc. So those combinations of positions of fingers are interdependent. Why do we need all that? One may assess dexterity of different professionals like surgeons, musicians, seamstresses, etc. And cyber sportsmen and digital athletes as well. That's a fashionable thing nowadays. So it may be used for selection of athletes. One can improve the dexterity, assess the dexterity, and to improve different manipulators like joysticks, keyboards, make them more ergonomic and convenient for the usage. Virtual reality, added reality is getting more and more popular. Technical kinds of sports are coming that need some virtual operation. Hence, our method shall be necessary. Due to that, you'll be able to understand the limitations in human dexterity. Thanks for the attention. Thanks a lot, Andrei. Truly, we have things to consider, and this may be used. Yeah, your presentations cause a lot of thinking. One more presentation is announced. I'd like to discuss the topic that was touched upon at discussion of soccer. We should discuss the federal standards of sports preparation for regulation of preparation of sports reserve. There are strong points, weak points. Our colleague, Mr. Smirnov, from the Supreme Sports School of the Russian Federation, shall tell us about it. Tell about independence and standardization of sports, pros and cons. You're welcome, dear Olga. Thank you for putting me the last on the list, because I'm supposed to say summarize, perhaps. And it's good that you've started with the Moscow State University. Beautiful slides and prospects. Then you continued with very interesting scientific presentations in different fields. And now, finally, there's a usual sports school. It's probably one of the last institutions preparing athletes or training athletes. I didn't prepare any slides. Maybe it's my drawback, but there have been two excellent presentations about dexterity, so I'll use my fingers and gestures to explain our school so that I know where I'm coming from. It's a sports school of St. Petersburg at Kamenastrovsky Prospect, house number 68. It's one of the oldest sports schools of St. Petersburg, founded on the 31st of December of the year 45. It still exists and it does flourish. Its name was never changed, and at this school, different kinds of sport were cultivated: calisthenics, wrestling, sailing, fencing, and even beach or volleyball. Sports results of our school are quite important. There wasn't a single Olympic Games without our graduates. Let me name Tatiana Kazarkina, Viktor Zdanovich, Anatoly Rushin, and the last Olympic Games, Summer Olympics, because we're dealing with summer kinds of sports. That's the Olympic Games in Brazil. 2 Olympic medals in fencing and in shooting were received by the graduates of our school. I believe that's a good recommendation for our school. Now getting back to the topic of standards. Yes, definitely in our country, a lot of attention is paid to the sports at a high level, at the level of government. We have government sports schools and other sports educational establishments. We do get government financing, but let me mention some problems as well. First, theory and methodology of sports. Second, the issues of management and leading the process. We have a lot of achievements nowadays, and many were mentioned today. As for the second part, the drawbacks, and it's not only my personal opinion, it's the opinion of our team of teachers. Many are distinguished teachers, over 30 distinguished coaches of Russia and the Soviet Union. We have more than 50 athletes that are part of the Olympic teams of Russia. So we do have practical work. As for theory and methodology, I will not mention that, but I'd like to talk about management and the standard documents and regulations. Starting from the year 15, we received the order of the president. Sports has to become independent. It shouldn't be part of the education. It shouldn't be part of culture. It should be sport as it is, separate branch or field of human activity. We were all at last. We said at last our activities won't be checked by the system of education because they don't know much about sports usually, good as they are. And finally, the first federal standard was developed. The first standard related to us was in judo, and it was dated the year 17. What's the standard? It's the order of the Ministry of Sports. I did check with the dictionary of Russian language. There are many determinations of standards. One was really a surprise. It's something that is not new or original. It's the contradiction. If we talk about training an athlete, one should be original and innovative. Remember, athletes and their path, their career. Remember the small children who were not according to the standards. They didn't have the necessary achievements, but they had very high motivation. In Moscow region, there was the school of gymnastics, the Lebedeva, who later was the bronze, received the bronze medal at the Olympics. She was running and she would join the carpet with she would share the carpet with other athletes. There wasn't enough conditions. Well, different standards have different contradictions. I've heard about that in the field of soccer. People who are working and want to train athletes are looking for the ways to get away from the standards. Then why the standards should exist? Perhaps standards are necessary, but the way they are now, they're not very useful. The first standards, now the second series of standards was issued. In the first, we were separated from education. Sport became independent, but we didn't understand where we were going because the coach is not a pedagogue. We're training, but that's not pedagogical science. Then who is the coach? It wasn't quite clear. To see nothing of the practical issues. The coaches were deprived of certain benefits since they're not considered to be pedagogues anymore. And that's not true. We do employ pedagogics when training our athletes. So minimum achievements in different kinds of sports and consideration of gender and age peculiarities at acceptance to the sports schools for certain kinds of sports. For example, judo starts at the age of 7, sambo since the age of 10. But these are very similar sports, aren't they? The number of starts in boxing, 20 per year. Can you imagine that? That a boxer would have 20 per year. The number of sports camps for training, to my mind, it's too high. If it's the level of the team, national team, it's 300 days a year. But for the usual sports school with normal children and teenagers, they also study at normal government schools. You understand why I mentioned that? The number of hours, but what is it, 60 minutes or 45 minutes? In the first standard, it was never mentioned. Now it is mentioned. The first standards, at least, had certain targets. This is the minimum. for the athlete. Now we're back to the field of education again. We have no objectives. It's not clear for the coach. Who is it for? Is it for the sports schools or for the national teams? It's not quite clear indeed. I've mentioned these things because of the following problems. Any controlling bodies are coming to visit, and you know there's plenty of those that we have. They are not looking for the essence of things. They're pretty formal. That's prosecutor, Rospotrебnadzor, our branch committee on physical culture and sport. So we are unable to explain to them that if a child started at the age of 6.5, is physically talented, and he can perform the norms better than the one who studied for 2 years, still we can't substantiate this exception made for him. We know that the initial preparation is the general physical preparation for the child. We just teach them to move. That's it. Nothing special. What's my conclusion? When these standards were developed in St. Petersburg, a working group was created. I participated in its work. Many times we visited the Ministry of Sports and the Federal Center of Preparation of Sports Teams in Moscow, and we discussed the topic. Now we are again part of the education, and at the meeting with the education committee, I was asked the same question. I say, please tell what will be the benefit of it for those who are going in for sports. Please answer. No, they say, we shall carry out the federal order. That's it. But I don't think these details are interesting for the president. That's not his level of competence. He doesn't need to deal with such details. Well, I know now there's an initiative to revive the so-called comprehensive scientific groups that used to exist in the Soviet Union. Hope the members shall be people who are really interested in this sports development, that it won't be bureaucratic, that there'll be not only the figures, but also people will have certain freedom for decision making and for acting. And I do hope that these groups shall actively participate in the development of the norms. Our school shall always be happy to cooperate. I also call the Lipetsk University. Please visit us, conduct your research. We'll let you research best athletes of Russia. They're very friendly and they'll be happy to participate. Well, and that's it about my presentation. Thanks a lot for your attention. Thanks a million. You've really ended not with a dot, but with an exclamation sign. Distinguished representatives of the Federation on the kinds of sport, please hear the practitioners' recommendations. You know, our well-being depends on them. If we don't have a coach, we'll have nothing to study, nothing to dream about, no one to be the fan of during the sports competitions. So the federal standards should be scientifically substantiated. Same about the time of beginning of going in for sports. Of course, our heads are looking for scientific substantiation, the question, and ask to substantiate the terms for beginning of going in for certain kinds of sports. So we have things to do, and we'll be happy to do that. We'll be enthusiastic about our work because this is for the benefit of our nation, of our children, since our well-being in the future depends on our youth. Thank you very much for participating in our session. I think it was a very fruitful time, and I wish you every kind of success in your work related to practical work, science, and enlightenment, because we should promote the values of physical culture and sports. They should be promoted. So my congratulations. And I guess this was quite a successful and useful and fruitful day of work. Questions are welcome, dear colleagues. Thank you. Wish you success. See you again, hopefully. Goodbye.